As humans, we enjoy peace. And as women, we enjoy vitality, being self empowered and having the energy to do the things that we love, be in a space of pleasure and ease. So, in order to harness feminine energy for inner peace and vitality, I have a few tips to share with you. Welcome to the Satisfied Woman podcast. I'm your host, Alanna Kaivalya. This podcast is dedicated to helping women lean into their femininity and rediscover the power of their feminine gifts. We take a look at what it means to be a modern woman and how we can live a satisfied life on our own terms. Visit the hub at thesatisfiedwoman.com. So, first thing to realize, and I'm sure that you already do, is that femininity is devalued. Our culture, our current dominant culture, the patriarchy, has spent thousands of years repressing femininity and womanhood in order to maintain a sense of control and order over it. Femininity is powerful. It is life-changing. It's life-affirming. And it's course-correcting. At any point that we don't feel a sense of inner peace and vitality, the first calibration is the feminine intuition. It's going to feel it first. Anytime something is off kilter or not right, it's that feminine intuition that is going to alert us to it. Whether that be the feminine intuition inside of us or those around us, and whether that be the feminine within us trying to talk to our internal masculine. All of us as human beings have both femininity and masculinity operating within us. Those of us who identify as feminine women simply lean into the femininity more. That's our primary polarity. That's the one that makes us feel most ourselves, most at ease. That's where we find a sense of empowerment, joy, and comfort. It's through our femininity. Now, it doesn't mean we don't have masculinity. So whether we're having that conversation internally about our masculinity trying to override that feminine gift of intuition, or whether we're having that conversation externally with masculine forces outside of us trying to override our feminine intuition, either way, it's an issue. It's going to disturb our peace. It's going to diminish our vitality. Now, the messaging for the last several thousands of years of our culture has worked. It's worked. In fact, it's even convinced us as women that our femininity is not strong, that it's less valuable, that it's not important, that it's potentially dangerous. We don't have to look very far into our past to find evidence of women being vilified, harmed because of their feminine gifts. So it can be scary, even in this day and age of the Me Too movement, movements toward equality, equity, women finding their own agency. We have a lot more power now than we ever have before, but we're not done yet. We're not to the finish line yet. There is still much work to do, and we still feel that lingering legacy of repression and suppression of the feminine. We even feel it inside of ourselves. Now, I was also, like you, I imagine, my listener, raised in this dominant culture of the patriarchy. And I was taught to second guess my intuition, that intuition is less valuable than logic. Logic is the primary masculine trait. Intuition and emotion are the primary feminine trait. Our culture values logic. And because intuition is not logical, it doesn't have to be, by the way. You don't have to make sense of it. It is often overlooked. And we do it to ourselves as women. We have gotten the messaging so strongly that our intuition is both illogical and incorrect that we don't listen to it. We've been trained out of listening to it. We repress our emotions or are vilified by them. I can't tell you how many times as a woman in any situation I have been told to calm down, quiet down, you're being crazy, you're being irrational, you're blowing things out of proportion. Emotions are real. And not only are they real, they're powerful sources of communication from your soul to you about what's okay and what's not for you, about your sense of safety, security, comfort. They're not to be overlooked. And when they are, let's say, out of control, when they are overwhelming, even to us, the one who is having the emotion, imagine it like a small child who's been ignored for a long time. At some point, they can't take it anymore and they scream in frustration. Overwhelming emotions are often that response, that internal response to not being listened to. When we allow ourselves to emote appropriately, proportionately, in the moment, when we have a community around us or a safe place to allow those emotions to flourish and be heard, they tell us what we need. So if we're in a situation where people around us are telling us that we shouldn't have that emotion, that we're blowing things out of proportion, that we're overreacting, might be a good time to reassess that situation and find people, places, and situations that allow you to just be who you are, because your emotions are an important communication system. With all of this messaging as women, we often suppress our own femininity, even those of us who identify as a feminine woman. And our culture has a bit of a skewed idea of womanhood as a result, because it values the patriarchy so highly. It values masculine traits so highly that even feminine women find themselves edging toward the masculine in much more powerful and strong ways than they would naturally. It's an inauthentic expression because it's not at the heart of who we are or what we want. Our culture says, hey, but wait, the masculine is so much more important, powerful, effective. And we listen to that, so we don the mask of masculinity. Now, I write about this in my book, The Way of the Satisfied Woman. And the mask of the masculine is detrimental when we wear it all the time or for too long. I speak from experience here, and I speak in this way because I imagine you probably have some experience too. We're told as young women that emotions are illogical, irrational. We're told that our intuition is wrong and that it doesn't make any sense. And so we bring forward masculine traits. We're told that success has to happen on a man's terms, that you have to you have to climb up the ladder of whatever career path you choose in order to become successful. That's a hierarchical path. Hierarchy is masculine, community is feminine. We're told that we have to be all things to all people at all times, that the value of a woman is in giving herself away. It feels exhausting even to say that. I spent a lot of years, in fact, we could count them as decades at this point, living that narrative, believing that my value was not in my femininity and in behaving with my feminine gifts, bringing them out, being self-empowered through my femininity, but in doing everything, in doing more than everybody else, in achieving success more than even my male counterparts in order to be recognized as a worthy and valid human in this culture. When we don the mask of the masculine, when we ourselves try to repress our own femininity, when we try to bring forth the masculine, when we engage in the world in that way, and what that is, what that looks like, it's burnout, it's overextension, it's doing everything for everyone all day and then coming home and still doing everything for everyone in your home too. It's saying yes to everything when you really want to say no. It's being cutthroat. It's playing to that hierarchical idea of success and having it all, having more, wanting more. When you don the mask of the masculine for too long, you get stuck in it. And people recognize you not as a feminine woman, but as a masculine woman. And so you attract those who are more feminine in your life. Because in relationship, whether that be business partnership, family partnership, intimate partnership, any kind of relationship, there will be a balance. There has to be, to use the Eastern term, a yin and a yang. There has to be a masculine and feminine. That's how we fill that full space. If there's too much masculine, that space gets distorted. If there's too much feminine, that space gets distorted. And it doesn't work long term. So in any kind of relationship, you need to have that counterpart. If you as a feminine woman are donning the mask of the masculine constantly, because you've been told that's the right thing to do, because you've been told your only chance at having a fulfilling life is by doing it on a man's terms, then people will see you as that masculine and you will attract those in the feminine. Or when people get around you because they feel so comfortable with your masculine, they'll check out of their masculine and relax into the feminine, which leaves you more in the masculine. It leaves you more burnt out. It leaves you doing more things more of the time. It's not going to work out long term. You know, I think about dating, and I think about a recent experience actually that I had with a psychic. I'll name it. I was in Sedona, Arizona. I love Sedona, by the way. It's one of my favorite places. I love the desert Southwest in general. I feel very happy and comfortable here. But Sedona is a wonderful place, and one of the things that you do in Sedona sometimes is you go and you see people who have this real gift of intuition. And I saw this woman, and let me tell you, she was beautiful. She was beautiful. She had this gorgeous silver hair. She was probably in her late 60s, early 70s. She wore incredible jewelry. She was so self-possessed. And she asked me a little bit about what I do in order to help me for whatever I was going there that day. Honestly, I don't even remember what the question was that brought me to her. What I remember, what stood out to me, was when I explained to her that I have this book called The Way of the Satisfied Woman, and I have this movement, and I have this website, and I have this community and this resource for women to reconnect with their femininity and honor that and bring it forward so that we can live in our femininity and start to value our feminine gifts because we were getting burnt out. She just started shaking her head and she said, every woman that comes to me these days has this problem. They can't find a relationship because they're so stuck in their masculine, that the men they date expect them to remain in their masculine and are confused when they want them to be men and stand up and stand in their masculine power, because the women can't let go of their own masculine. They haven't had enough time, exposure, training, relaxation, safety, comfort to embody and embrace their feminine. But when we do, that's when we find peace. That's when we access our inner resources and feel vital. We feel vital. We feel full of our own empowerment, our own energy. When we're donning the mask of the masculine for too long, we feel inauthentic. We become burnt out. We live life on a man's terms. We are disoriented and disconnected from what makes us feminine women. We leave behind any sense of relaxation or peace. And I'll just name it. It needs to stop. It just needs to stop. If this resonates with you, if you feel like you've been wearing the mask of the masculine for too long, my dear satisfied sister, it's time to stop. It's time to stop. I understand. I feel you. I know how exhausting it can be. I know how it attracts more of that exhaustion because you become so capable in that masculine field. Look, as women, we are strong and we are powerful, but let's be powerful on feminine terms. Let's be powerful without the hierarchy. Let's be powerful without the inauthenticity, without the burnout. Let's be powerful on feminine terms. Let's stop orienting everything we do not only towards the masculine, but towards the comfort of the masculine around us. Let's be comfortable in ourselves. Let's orient towards our own comfort. Hierarchy, leadership, masculinity doesn't have to be our normal. There's another way of doing things. It's the feminine way of doing things. Masculinity in ourselves is only helpful occasionally when we need to get a job done, when we need to have that real strong leadership. Look, we all have masculine and feminine within us, and there definitely are times and occasions where bringing that masculinity forward as a woman is incredibly helpful, particularly in child rearing. When we have children under 10, being the masculine is helpful because all children under 10 are in the feminine, regardless of gender. They need to be nurtured and nourished. They need to be supported and directed. They need to be guided. Those are all powerful masculine qualities. All children under 10 are in the feminine. As women, when we move into that masculine role of motherhood, interestingly enough, when we pull those qualities forward for our small children, man, we nail it. We nail it. And a lot of us really, really love it. And we love that idea of nurturing, nourishing others. And so we tend to dominate fields of care, self-care, help, and hospitality because of that, because we really love it. But we want to not get stuck in it. If it's not authentically who we are long term, we need to be able to downshift out of it and get back into a space of femininity. It can be really difficult to flip back and forth between the feminine and the masculine constantly. So to cultivate a life where the feminine is our primary polarity and to be safe, secure, comfortable, joyful in that, that is where we find peace. If those around us expect the masculine from us, then there may be a big adjustment period for those around us. And in fact, we may need to find new people to surround ourselves with. Just be open to that. Be open to either there being an adjustment period for those around us or to finding a different situation, circumstance, relationship that serves our femininity so that we can be in that creative, nourishing, peaceful, vital space. Make no mistake about it. The feminine is your greatest source of power. And if you're pushing it aside in favor of donning the mask of the masculine, that is not a sustainable long-term situation. It's just not. Maybe you do it for a day, a month, a year, a decade. But if there's not an opportunity for you to shift back into that femininity where you can just relax, be at ease, it will be to your detriment. And the thing about women is that anytime a woman is uncomfortable or unsafe, it's not just to her detriment, it is actually to the detriment of everyone around her. Women are the source of a community. I like to think of femininity as a well. And if that well is dry, not only is that detrimental to the well itself, it's going to crack, it's going to degrade, it's going to be harder to fill that well up. No one can drink from that well. Women are the hub, and their community are all of the spokes in the wheel around it. The world turns on a woman's femininity. The world turns on our womanhood. I know, it sounds like a big responsibility, doesn't it? But the biggest responsibility is to our own femininity and bringing that forward. The world needs it. We are so imbalanced right now. Femininity is not only going to save us as individuals, as feminine women, it's going to save those we love. It's going to empower those we love. It's going to nourish those we love, not nurture. Nurturing is more masculine. It's going to nourish, feed, resource, revitalize us and those we love. This is how we become satisfied women. Satisfaction, the literal definition of satisfaction, is the fulfillment of our wishes and needs. When we are in our feminine, we feel fulfilled. When we are getting our wishes and needs met, we feel fulfilled. A satisfied woman is an empowered woman. She is connected to femininity. She's engaging in things that bring her joy, And she's engaged in community. She's community oriented versus competition oriented. This is who we are. Satisfied women empower other women. Statistics show that when a woman is satisfied, when she is empowered, she is reinvesting her resources in her community. It is a mutually beneficial experience for a woman to be empowered and in her feminine power. So, my fellow satisfied women, do not live in the box. Get outside of it. Lean into what makes you happy. And it doesn't have to fit what society feels is normal. It has to feel good to you. So I give you permission to stop, to drop the mask of the masculine, to say no to what doesn't serve you, to release in authenticity, to be yourself, to be satisfied, to be feminine, to be empowered in who you are. This is your source of joy. This is your source of peace. It's time. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for listening to the podcast, and thank you for being a part of the community of women who are marching on that path towards satisfaction. For more resources, community, for my book, The Way of the Satisfied Woman, head over to my website, thesatisfiedwoman.com. Thank you so much. Until the next podcast, be empowered.